I mean, if you don't mind, I have a follow-up question for you. You've said twice now that Joe Montana is the second best quarterback of all time and Tom Brady's the best. I'm not so sure I agree with you on that. Why is Tom Brady a better quarterback than Joe Montana?
Tom Brady has the rings. He has 7 rings, which is
Yeah,
really hard to do as a quarterback. Now, the thing about Joe Montana is that Joe Montana has 4 rings, and and so does Terry. Doesn't Joe Montana has 4 rings if I remember correctly, and so does
Yes, he
Terry
does.
Bradshaw have 4 rings. So you could argue that Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana are in the same category, but they're not. Joe Montana is the second best quarterback, but also being down 28-3 in a Super Bowl and coming back, nobody expected the Patriots to come back 28-3. To have 7 rings, to come back and down 28-3 in a Super Bowl, to do what Tom Brady's doing at his age is really, really hard to do. It's easily Tom Brady.
okay, hold on a second. They came back. They were down. Who were they down 28-3 to, Rudy?
To the Kyle Shanahan Falcons.
Yeah, I don't see that so much as New England winning that game as Kyle Shanahan losing that game. So that's one thing.
That's a good
Yes,
It's
point.
sir.
true that Brady.
That's
That's
a
very
good
true.
I
point.
mean,
That's a good point.
it's true that Brady has more rings than Joe. Joe never lost the Super Bowl.
It's true.
Never lost the Super Bowl. And I want to say another thing.
Dang.
When Joe played, you could really hit a quarterback.
It's true.
You could really hurt a quarterback. Brady played under more forgiving rules for quarterbacks. In addition, Joe you don't think of him as a mobile quarterback, but he was. I
Yes.
mean, the catch he ran right,
Yeah.
and Brady is not a mobile quarterback. So,
It's true.
look, what I want to say is, I happen to believe Joe was better, but on the other hand, I covered Joe. I never covered Brady, but I don't. I think it's an argument, but I don't think it's an easy decision. I certainly have trouble saying Joe is the second best. I'd say it's a fair argument between the two.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting. I mean,
But even
Tom Brady certainly has the longevity. But what my dad is
Mhm.
saying is that the reason he's still playing in his mid 40s because you can't touch quarterbacks anymore. He wouldn't have been playing in his mid 40s in the 80s and 90s. That's a good
No,
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, but even the stats compared to Brady's stats and Joe Montana's stats, Joe Montana's played from 1979 to 1994, and he only has 273 touchdowns, while Brady has over 79,000 passing yards, 510 touchdowns, and at his age, that's hard to
They
do.
changed the rules though. You can't hit the quarterbacks the same. You can't touch the wide receivers
I
anymore.
don't. Yeah, I
Uh,
don't.
yeah, you can't compare the numbers because the
Yeah,
average
the
quarterback
numbers.
rating in the 80s was 75 and the average quarterback rating now is 92.
Yeah, and if
But
Joe played now, he'd have a very very high quarterback rating. The numbers are not comparable.
I think the biggest difference between them is that Joe can move. Joe can
Yeah,
move. Yep. But I
Yeah,
think Tom Brady took his fitness a little bit more seriously. I
you
mean
know,
it.
I would
Go
have to
ahead.
agree.
Yeah.
Maybe Joe didn't even know about those ideas. It was another era.
Yes.
Certainly, Brady is a physical phenomenon, and it's because he takes it so seriously. Yeah,
Also, I feel like Brady separates himself from people like Aaron Rodgers and other people of his generation because he's the coach too. That's what really separates him. He is the coach as well. Maybe Joe could have been that as well, but Tom Brady I think has an impact beyond what he does in the pocket.
okay.
Anyway, let's move on.
and the other thing about Tom Brady before we move on is that Tom Brady, that Bucks team with Jameis Winston, the only thing that they didn't have with Jameis Winston that they had with this, it was pretty much the same Bucks team. They had Mike Evans, they had Chris Godwin, they had Shaquille Barrett, and Shaquille Barrett actually did better when Jameis Winston was quarterback. He had 19 sacks. They had Levante David, they had Devin White, so they basically had the same team, and they didn't make it to the playoffs. You add Tom Brady on the other hand, you add Tom Brady on the factor. The only difference was that they had Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown didn't do that much. He didn't have 1,000 yard season. So you add Tom Brady to the Bucks, and they win a Super Bowl.
Winning with two teams is very impressive.